Welcome to the SAL Challenger Series, where we get to send one team to the SAL today. My name is Anne, and I'm joined here on the desk by V and Jess. I'm very excited because I never got to work with you two, but Jess, in fact, you told me earlier you haven't ever worked the SAL before either.
No, we have not, and I also said that I'm very scared of you, so I gotta be uptight, I gotta be professional in my analysis, and I gotta make sure everything is solid. But yeah, very excited. It's so cool to be able to work SAL. It's been the premier region for quite some time, so there's no doubt in my mind that this is gonna be an incredible game that we have.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, we have the defending world champions coming from this region, but the same for you. I mean, V, you've never worked this region either. You excited to be here?
Oh, very much so. It's kind of crazy because we kind of crash right into EML. I think we're starting to. We don't even get to really talk about some of these teams. We don't get to go too much into the map veto or the bracket because everything is coming all together at once. It's gonna be exciting to just hop right into it.
Okay, yeah, of course. Well, the first game we have here today is the upper bracket final. We're talking about 9Z versus Imperial Esports, both having made their way through this bracket. Imperial Esports having had it a little bit easier going into this game, but as I hear, the game will be starting, and in fact, you two get to talk about it more as you can take it away for the first game of today.
I wanted to talk more.
You get to talk now. We'll have a very brief amount of
I want to
time.
talk. We've never worked together before, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, game time. Well, thank you, Anne. I hope we'll get more time in the next map. But Bank is map number 1 between 9Z and Imperial. Now, the story between these teams, obviously, one of these teams was actually relegated from the SAL, and that was Imperial. Back whenever they were known as ENX. Did not have the, or as well as 9Z actually. I think both of these teams were relegated. So both of these teams now trying to fight back for their spot in the league. Less so for 9Z. You have a lot of newer players to this roster. Nitro and Tuku, however, have experience in the SAL. But Bastian, Scarps, and Pano, this would be their first time qualifying. Whereas Imperial, as you can obviously see, lots of names on that roster that you've probably heard of before, like Florio and Sexy Cake, who have experience in the SAL.
Yeah, some of 9Z have pasts with each other. They played on Vasco, who was in the LATAM League. This was around, middle of 2024, early into 2025. So it's been a little bit since they've all kind of come together. But to make it all the way, you do get 2 chances. So this, if a team loses here, they get to go down to the lower bracket, which will be tomorrow, and play INTZ, which is kind of crazy because INTZ and Imperial were both 3-2 teams in the Swiss stage. By, basic standards, they quote-unquote barely made it in, and yet here 2 of the teams are with a really good chance to make it to Pro League.
Yeah, these are 2 teams that I think will also stand through SAL. The moment that they get back in, I feel like both of these teams can absolutely make a run in Pro League and actually compete with those teams in SAL. We just have to prove which one of those teams is going to make it right now. Upper bracket final means that whoever loses this will have another shot, but they want to do it now. Already, Imperial starting to make their way over towards the square side. A lot of utility to get through Azami barriers, as well as Maestro Cam's castle barricades. And of course, this clash that you only really have the Zofia and the Ashe to deal with, which Ashe doesn't have any more charges left. So it's going to be a little rough here in the late game, but I think Imperial are just going to try and find a way in first as they make their way over towards the windows, as well as having a lurk set up by the lobby side.
9Z just have so much utility that is designed to soak up those Zofia nades, those Ashe nades, those Roteros, that you can't get rid of all of them. And I think having the clash potentially for the late game is really going to expound upon that, because now you have absolutely nothing besides maybe some flashbangs and some Kawan highs, but that really isn't going to help you too much when it comes to actually breaking the Clash's shield and forcing an engagement, especially when you're trying to potentially get that diffuser down. The clock is ticking down. This is going to be a very, very chaotic push at the last second, and losing Florio is not going to help you at all, especially with Sexy Cake. 1 mag, and there's still so many bullets to go.
Wow, Pano with 3 on those windows, holding it down. You saw Florio struggle to get that wall open because of Scarps on the clash, and now it's starting to throw Imperial down for a loop as they try to rush up Banana. There's nothing that's stopping 9Z from just gunning them down on the approach, and it is a flawless first round. Well, not flawless, but it feels really flawless from 9Z, who just held it down. Their setup was so strong, and Imperial just could not break through. They tried to get the square wall open, but the Clash completely denied that. The amount of map control that Imperial had just made that, or rather 9Z had, just made that so impossible for Imperial to break through.
I mean, Pano is the huge difference maker, but Pano was allowed space on that top floor. Going up to that bomb chassis, holding the angle through the double wall onto Sexy Cake, and then immediately going towards the windows. The whole point of the players on the windows is so that nobody can actually extend into the site itself, and that can allow players like Sexy Cake to walk up in through square. But because no one has that angle, you're allowed to get a kill, which spirals into 2 more, because as I said, it's an LMG. It is a bullet hose. You will probably not have to reload through 2 to 3 potential firefights. And we see just how strong it can be, especially on a player who is given space and given assistance by other players like Scarps, and I think it was Tuku, who were very close that could potentially got the trade, even if Pano didn't collect.
Yeah, that was a good setup from 9Z, and I feel like it's going to be a continuous issue for Imperial, who love to kind of just roam around the map and take individual gunfights, relying on their own gun skill. It's been a big thing that's gotten them through Challenger Series, not only in the quals, but also in the actual group and playoff stage. Against a team that has such structure and solid setups, you've got to find a way to break through them. You have to find a way to clear that utility. We saw the Flores being brought by Imperial as a means to do so, but they didn't really get everything that they needed. The Clash was still alive. They still had Kibas. All of that is going to continue to compound on Imperial if they don't find opening picks, or if they don't find picks at all. We'll see if anything changes here for Imperial, who have a lot of execute utility this time around. The Ying got the Grim. Blackbeard just can help out with pushing in. I say that Machina making his way into stock, beginning this roam clear. And like I said, kind of looking for isolated gunfights, looking for that one player that's caught off guard. But the problem, V, is that it's Scarps on the roam. It's a guy with a shield in his face.
And because of the operator choices, you are going to have a little bit of a better time dealing with that Clash. I mean, you have the Candelas, you have the 3 frag grenades in your pocket. Technically, the EMP is a counter to the Clash. We don't see that too much. So you imagine that they're going to be able to really crash onto Scarps, which then rotate into the site itself. But because Basement is such a difficult site to attack, it's just simply going to be a struggle for Imperial to begin with, and especially if they just take a very long time, which, I mean, we're 2 minutes into the round. Scarps is still unabated. Tuku has deployed the second smoke canister. Only now is the hatch actually getting taken down. This attack is really going to come together in a matter of about 20 seconds, especially if Scarps keeps putting pressure on these players in open area.
Florio's the one with the case as well, so he is stuck right now, cannot move. And as Machina tries to help him out, Bastian will just swing on in. Florio goes for the drop, and the case is now in the middle of Red Hall, but the execute over towards the vault side coming through. Yex finds a pick on the Bastian, at least giving Imperial a little bit of breathing space as he's made his way into sight. Tuku must have rotated back. No, he's still in server. So Yex is just sitting in the site while Tuku's in server. I mean, kind of a miscomm from both sides. And yeah, Yex will just go down to Tuku from behind. Mythics will at least get the trade. Tries to go in there with the Reaper, but it's a double from Tuku. And all Sexy K can do is try and find this 1 versus 3, but it's Scarps alive with that shield. There's no way that Sexy K gets away with that. That is another 9Z shutout there. An incredibly well-held defense. Just played that to perfection around the Clash and the rest of the utility.
I mean, I want to ask you a question. And it's kind of a rhetorical question, but in the past 2 rounds, have you seen anything that Imperial have done, whether it is their roam clear, whether it is their utility focus toward the site, that have actually helped them get an advantage in either of those rounds?
Yeah, it's a question to ask for sure, because I feel like they're taking a lot of space, but not actually cutting into the hold of 9Z, right? Like, open area, they made their way in for sure, but they were just immediately pressured out by Scarps and Bastian. And then the moment that Yex tries to go for a play inside the site, Tuku's behind him, playing inside a server. I felt like that was information that Imperial had. I mean, it certainly felt like they did. So it's a weird thing that they're going to have to go through in this game. I feel like they're playing against, honestly, a really, I would say, a difficult matchup, just because 9Z have just been playing this so structured compared to Imperial, who are really looking to try and find that edge with gunfights, but you can't really do that when Scarps is slowing you down on that Clash.
Yeah, you're really going to have to focus on somehow getting rid of it. you know, right now at least, we still have 30 seconds until operator choices click in, but like, you're probably going to need something like the Zofia. There is no immediate band-aid fix, at least what we see from Imperial. I mean, Flores, I don't want to say it's exactly for the Clash, because it feels like you're going to have a much better time using those Roteros for, you know, the Kiba barriers, for barbed wires, bulletproof cameras, a lot of these things. So for Imperial, I think when you attack, you need to make sure you use your time wisely and get some sort of advantage, whether it is creating a little nest egg for yourself on the site or getting an opening pick. We have seen nothing of those two, and as we go over to that open area, the Zofia was selected but swapped off for the Twitch, and the solid snake choice is really interesting to me because it feels like you're not having a problem finding where these roamers are because it's a Clash. The struggle is actually dealing with her.
You have to make the choice of, do you want to walk around it or do you actually want to directly fight it head on? X is on the Nomad. That may answer that question. He might be on Clash duty. He's already put 2 air jabs on the stock door, so he's only got 1 to dedicate directly towards Scarps. Otherwise, not a lot of utility to deal with him. Certainly feels like Imperial are going for another plan of some sort. Try and find their way inside. You've got Machina on the Snake. Probably going to set up a lurk of some kind. Sexy Cake on the Blitz is going to struggle against Scarps if he can't find a way around him, though. Yeah, I think I see the idea here for Imperial, but this is a Staff and Archives hold, so there's a lot of vert that you can use above the site. And you can see that 9Z are doing exactly just that. Machina makes his way into Printer. It's going to be thwarted by that Tachanka.
Let's talk about the verticality. There's no verticality ops. There's no ram. There's no sledge. There's no buck. So it's going to allow players like Bastion and Pano, also have Tuku in there, who are going to be able to hold things down. Sexy Kick pushing up as fast as he can, catches player right behind, but Tuku is immediately there. A trade does come from Machina, however.
Yeah, they got 2 really good power spots out of the way. Bastion and Tuku both dying outside of the site. And losing both your Smoke and Tachanka, that is massive. So much area denial now off the board. You still have Scarps retaking open area. Even if he goes down here, he is wasting time. And he's kind of forcing Imperial's hand. They're going to rotate away. You could see making their way up towards Stock. They're just going to choose to ignore this. And it might be a wise move. Stock is empty right now. 9Z are currently positioned in CEO. They're not able to contest if this open area gets dropped in. Matrix makes his way into square. Scarps is dealt with on the Clash by Machina. It's a 2 versus 4, the best chance Imperial have had at a round so far. And as Matrix takes down Pano, those F2s are firing. It's all down to Nitro. He has all that vert, but what can he do with it? It doesn't seem like Deny the Plant is the answer, unfortunately. Just too many variables moving all at once for Nitro to catch. And he's now going to have to find a way down. There's only few hatches you can work with, and both of them lead to immediate danger. Just looking for that initial pick to get it started, but Imperial are just playing this so smart. Not going to give up a single pick, playing their crossfires. Nitro now just stepping towards the bomb site. And there's simply no time. It'll be Machina to swing in and get that pick as Imperial find themselves their round that they absolutely needed.
Yeah, and it initially seems like it might be kind of the same thing. Sexy Cake goes down, but a player is immediately there for the trade onto the smoke. And because Sexy Cake has found the other player in open area, you're going to immediately be able to turn on that second player. And so I think for Imperial, where you talked about they took space, they tried taking space, but really didn't do anything with it, didn't actually pose a threat. Well, with something like the Blitz and a player immediately behind him, the option is kind of gone between taking space and not actually doing something with it. And there is a really good job by Scarpin trying to retake it, but I think Imperial just did a wonderful enough job at surrounding the actual site itself. Yes, they've been a little bit of a slower team, but getting that pick about 45 seconds in, your other teammates are already in position, and now you've started to swarm the site. I think it's a good attack from them, but as we focus towards the future, I think the ban that we really need to talk about is that clash. It's a good ban by Imperial, and I feel like I don't need to tell you guys why, because Scarps has been running it every single round. It's been a massive thorn in the side of this attack, and now there's really no alternative that you can do. Like, if there's a Monty ban, you can still run Blitz. You can still run Blackbeard. If Clash is gone, nobody's going to be able to fill that void.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily there's like a certain operator that can, but I think the switch up by 9Z is trying to mimic that. You've got Scarps on the Denari, you've got the Fenrir as well, and you're also setting up some lurks here, so I think for 9Z, it's all about continuing to kind of stall out Imperial and deny them the area and the space that they want. Because Imperial are kind of just trying to take it with one man or two men. If you're able to just dump utility on a certain choke point that Imperial are walking through, that might be enough to kind of replace the clash, and Yex just goes down immediately. Now, that is an incredibly important pick for one reason or another. First of all, it seems like Imperial want to rush through this janitor hall, or this janitor closet. But second of all, your roamers are now completely safe and free of this lion pressure. You can see Tuku's playing below, Bastian's playing above. Well, Bastian wouldn't matter as much for him, but no more lion means that they're just going to be able to run around on this lurk and try and stall out Imperial as much as they can, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the play for Imperial, who want to get this going immediately. Sexy Cake hops into Printer, and Mitrix actually manages to clear out Pano. I thought that was going to be a massive choke point for 9Z, but the Azami goes down instantly, and now Imperial have sight. Tuku with an impressive kill onto Sexy Cake, coming back to sight through the hatch, and makes his presence known. Shuts down Imperial off this roam. Glaz taken off the board as well. He was inside a Printer. So now all of your control is reduced to this staff area, and 9Z are starting to surround the attack. The flank coming in from behind. A nice shot from Mitrix, but immediately traded by Nitro. And Machina forced to move away. Exactly like we said. 9Z were just going to try and force as much area denial as possible to forego Imperial walking into the site, and it works out to perfection.
I mean, losing your Lion like that, it means that you're going to have one less body to try to surround the site, and with players like Tuku, who are on the Oryx, we don't usually see the Oryx as much, but one of the strengths of him is his ability to rotate extremely fast. He's got those Rima dashes. He's got the ability to jump over the hatches, which we did see Tuku do onto Elevator. And so without Yex, Imperial decide to go for a little bit of a fast play, force Mitrix into kitchen while Sexy Cake watches through the window, and they just don't have the setup right. They just don't have the ability to destroy the defensive utility that you talked about with the Azami, Denari, Fenrir. It's just way too much for the attack to deal with, and there is just no way that Machina is going to be able to walk away with it. Eventually goes down. Now 9Z continue on their rampage. They've actually gone through every single site in the entire map so far, and so they get to go back to the second floor, get to go back to the basement, something that's really good for the defense.
I think one of the strongest things you can do as a team on Bank is know every single site, especially considering how weak of a site Archives can be. And yeah, they didn't get the win there, but I think it's equally as impressive that they're able to rotate up to the top floor, over to open area, and downstairs, and just make it all work seamlessly. That was incredibly good from 9Z to play that patiently, knowing that Imperial were going to go in for that rush, knowing that they were just going to take space as quickly as they can. All 9Z did was sit back, play their power positions, kind of just wait to see what Imperial managed to grab. And they managed to get themselves inside a staff, but the moment that Sexy Cake died inside a Printer, it really felt like all hell broke loose for Imperial. 9Z, proving that they can do it without this clash. The area denial, the Denaris, the Fenrirs worked out so well, and now we have the return of the Azami, and you can't ban that either. So this Azami is going to be present in basically every single round. You've also got the Warden to play against the Glaz and the Ying, potentially, if they ever come out. Seems like Imperial will throw a spanner in the works by bringing on the Sens, which one can't see through. So potentially a window plant in progress for Imperial. We'll have to see if 9Z can hold it back.
I think one of the strongest things you can do as a defender, up until a certain point, is force your opponent to actually execute. Come up together, use time wisely, clear out the roamers, and for 9Z, they really have just sat back, let a lot of their utility do the work, and Imperial have struggled because they're a very slow team. Now Tuku finding Mitrix again, that's a lion! And this isn't as roam heavy of a site, but so far in every single round, Adam, 9Z have gotten every entry. 5 rounds, 5 entries, and you lose a player this early, which means that there's drones completely off the board. That's pressure that is vacated from the map. I think 9Z, yes, they're playing back, but they're playing aggressive in just the right spot that allow them to get these early picks, especially from a player like Tuku, who is just ratting out of his mind, and it is working wonderfully.
Yeah, and it feels weird because that's actually Imperial's style. Like, they're the ones that like to get the entry and just go, go, go. It's how they beat Vince 7, and it's how they planned on beating 9Z, but still 9Z playing that entry, Machina, a very important fight. Easily the key player of the team here for Imperial. And with Florio taking down Pano, the advantage now swings into 9Z's hands. They may lose this top floor site for the first time if Bastian and Nitro can't clutch this up. But there's so many angles to cover. Bastian gonna try to clear Banana out, but he can't do it. Nitro gonna set his eyes on the Repel player. But with the blitz nearby, Bastian is screwed. Florio with the Spider-Man Repel, his 3rd kill off of it. And it's all down to the smoke. 2 gas babes to work with, but the site is collapsing in around him, and so is Sexy Cake on that blitz. The shield presence just so much here for Imperial. The melee goes off, and Nitro's as good as dead. Imperial will slap them down. They finally make that rush work, and it's a 3-2 scoreline here on Bank.
Sometimes when you're a little bit aggressive like that, like we saw from Tuku, it does come back to bite you. Are you playing the skylight there, the Spider-Man Repel, as people like to call it? It's not a very common position because rappelling on that makes you so open to so many different angles. But because it's not played very often, the defense doesn't really expect it as much. It's like back when Frost was really starting to see a resurgence in like year 3 or 4, where it was a curve where it was like at the lower levels, people never played her. Or people played her and constantly got caught in the traps. And then at the high level, you always got caught in the traps because you didn't expect it. That's exactly what Imperial did. You take out a rampaging player like Tuku, and then you use Sexy Cake to push up the stairs and force back the rest of the defense, in which I think Sexy Cake did a wonderful job, because in the Valkyrie, who's hiding over by Banana, Sexy Cake pushes, there's nothing the defender can do. You look back at Bastion, a blitz is pushing him, there's nothing he can do. For Sexy Cake, yes, he may not be, collecting on a lot of the kills like he's letting the rest of the players on Imperial do. I think as the blitz in some of these more recent rounds, he's done a wonderful job.
Over the past year or two, Sexy Cake has been that shield player for ENX and Imperial. No surprise to see him on the blitz. If you had to give Sexy Cake like an operator, I feel like blitz is actually pretty synonymous at this point with Sexy Cake. Not only in his time now, kind of as a sunsetting pro player that has been at this for a really long time. He kind of reminds me of Canadian in a way. Just incredible for his time, and now kind of taking his time to also just develop the players around him rather than worry about his own individual skill. I think that's what Sexy Cake brings to this team, and I feel like that blitz is part of that, but he's on 0 for now. They've got Mitrix on the Blackbeard. Again, these shields now just going to be so much more effective that clash is off the board. That's the one thing I feel like 9Z haven't actually found a way around. Like, sure, they've been able to counter the clash ban with what Imperial have been doing and trying to like walk in, but they haven't really been able to find a counter to the clash being banned and how that affects the shields that Imperial are bringing, because those shields have been a presence so far. We'll see if Mitrix can do the same as Yex makes his way in towards Garage, but is spotted out by the Fenrir. Could be a play to watch out for later.
Yes, smoke only does so much. Realistically, it's going to be in a very contained area for a very limited amount of time, and sometimes the shields can just walk away from that. Ooh, Gloria almost finding an angle, but it's Sexy Cake above for 3. It's another skylight. What is it about 9Z and falling victim to players just looking out from above? And they should be able to find these 2 remaining players, especially with so much time on the clock remaining.
He heard me. He's like, dude, you call me a sunsetting pro player? Watch this. 3K, cool, 4K from Sexy Cake, winding back the clock, tries to get the player on keys, but it's Machina to do it instead. So close, but Machina and Sexy Cake, man, firing on all cylinders, and it gives Imperial a basement attacking win. 3-3 is the scoreline here. That is a great comeback from Imperial. What looked like a 9Z dominated a defense just completely shifted towards the end.
Yeah, now suddenly a game that looked like 9Z was really taking control. They had ways to completely stop the Imperial attack. We end at a 3-3. And Imperial get to swap on the defense with a huge swath of momentum. And now they get the statistical advantage. I know that, you know, defenders probably aren't as strong as they used to be, especially with like the new ban system and how everything's shaked out with the new meta. But if Imperial are able to get this first round, continue their dominance, and take care of any particular problems that 9Z may give them on their attack, they might end up on top. I want to check whose map pick this was, because we didn't get to look at the map veto.
Would be cool.
I'll find out.
I wonder if we can actually... Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if we can look in Challenger mode.
Get on that's what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm doing. Yes.
Well, shifting tides here. Not like the season, but rather... Imperial on the basement. On the defense. Got plenty of AOD. It feels like they're hiding this Oryx. Potentially have him roam just a little bit. And 9Z have an entirely different idea with their op lineup. They've got the Sens, the Capitao, the Ying. Seems like they too would like to go for this fast execute in the way that Imperial have been doing on their attacks. But for 9Z, I think their structured play has been working really well. I think that their op lineup has always been really solid for the job. But one thing that they're going to have to watch out for is they've got Scarps on the Blitz and Oryx is hidden. So they have no idea that this Oryx could come charging at the Blitz at any moment. Now, seems like a pretty stock standard turtle setup here for Imperial, notably reinforcing that red hatch rather than opening it, meaning that you're most likely not going to have somebody playing an open area to try and hold out and stall. But your extensions are going to come over towards that server side with Yex on the blue stairs. But Tuku already getting to work and popping those Goyos. That is a great start for 9Z.
It's mainly your job as Twitch on this site is just find out where those Goyo canisters are, or F-Dots if a team decides to bring them, and take them out. Really good black eyes from Sexy Cake as well. Hard to spot, but gives you a really good amount of vision. Especially because he's able to play behind them, use those impacts. Not a C4, interestingly enough. So this really was the plan from the beginning. Have somebody watch it while he, you know, tries to counter that shield that 9Z really struggled to deal with on their defense. But he drops, gives it away. I think about a minute, you know, you let the attackers know that you're there, and before they have time to really coalesce on you, take them out, especially with Bastion on the IQ. Machina down. That's your Oryx. That's the ability to take care of the shields, as you said. So Scarps is going to have a little bit more freedom. Not too much, because there still is the Tachanka and the smoke. But an entry like that is always going to be welcomed.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say that. Like, they have plenty of utility, I feel like, still to deal with this rush. But it's the fact that they're a man down that certainly sucks. Yex. Still in server. Has the hatch reinforced, so he could play there for quite some time. But I don't think that Imperial, or rather 9Z, are too concerned with him. You have Scarps over by this vault side. You have Bastion walking down Marble. It feels like this execute is going to come from that vault side more than anything. as Candela's starting to get tossed down these hatches. Pano possibly looking for a drop down into elevator, and Scarps finds himself inside a vault with the case in hand. This execute's going to come into the B site, but Pano's going to have to make a move as he is being flamed off by Florio as Sexy Cake floors 2. So does Yex with the smoke. A 1v3 now. This execute torn to shreds by Imperial. Quite the defense to throw Imperial into the lead of this game.
It's crazy because it seems like a really good attack on paper. You're able to push the defenders back. You have the blitz over in vault. You have the Ying dropping the elevator hatch. You just have one real obstacle in front of you before you're going to have access to the site and start pushing the defenders even further back into that server site. And that's Sexy Cake on the Valkyrie. If you can get a pinch, have him focus on the blitz while the Ying takes care of her from her side, you're great. But that doesn't happen. Sexy Cake holds his ground, finds 2 in there, and importantly, the blitz. And that attack just falls by the wayside. Sometimes you can have a really good attack on paper, and it falls apart when one man who has some really good ability with the MPX, he just tears it to shreds. It's a hard thing to wrestle with as an attacker.
Hard to wrestle with Sexy Cake, the Pro League champ as well. And Machina, actually. Both have just been incredible in this game for Imperial. That's the one thing that 9Z just can't really put a stop to. And this is what we expect to see of Imperial on this defense. They're going to run around and try and find those picks, regardless of the man count. And you have a lot more agency to do so on defense compared to attack. It's kind of going to just come down to if 9Z can keep all their utility alive, as they've been so reliant on trying to get that util down and on the board. They lost first engagement early. Rather, Imperial did. Still wasn't enough. 9Z now just looking for any opportunity to get a kill outside these windows, taking this round seemingly a lot slower towards the start.
Trying to just hold an angle. Maybe a player steps a bit too far out, but with no reason to be flushed out into, an angle that can potentially be found by Tuku, you're just going to wait. Force the attack to actually do their job. Like I said, it's something that is very powerful as the defense. The frag grenade is going to get caught by those magnets. And here is another attempt to potentially flush out some of these players into the light that is being watched by 9Z. But so far, nothing just yet. Trying to set everybody in position. Targeting Makima with the death mark is a good option, but how are you actually going to get him out of this position? And I think there's 3 players on the windows.
Yeah, but if Scarps can get in to quad, he might have a lot of space to take. And it seems like that's the plan, but Nitro going down makes it a little bit difficult. And Scarps makes his way in. Pano next up, but Machina hops out and fries him off the angle. A double kill for Machina. I'm just going to keep saying his name this entire game, aren't I? An incredible play from him. And it leaves Scarps and Bastian completely stranded inside the site. But given Scarps has the case, but no longer, as he no longer holds on to his life. Mitrix slams him down, and it's all down to Bastian in a 1 versus 3, as Sexy Cake is down inside a conference. But Machina's going hunting. Yex playing on the marble stairs, but Machina just completely drops him. Imperial. They didn't get away with it as easily on the attack, going for constant gunfights and just trying to find people. But on defense, it has worked wonders for them.
It's another retread of the previous site. You have everything in motion, players on the windows, the Deimos down below with the death marks and the frag grenades. It's just one player that stands between you and victory, and that player just tears you apart. It's a perfect time for a 9Z timeout. You haven't let things get too out of hand. You're only down 2. What does suck is that your opponent is on a 4-round streak. They are going to have to go to the tertiary or the quaternary side of archives. So you are going to have a good idea of what you can do, which is why I think, you take a time out here, you talk amongst each other about what you're going to do and what you could potentially do to alleviate some of those big issues of clearing out the singular player that needs to be taken care of.
I'm out over. Seems like 9Z are kind of already expecting this. Or kind of already know what they're going to be doing here. You got Nitro on the Ram, which already speaks to me like they're going to do a little bit more work in and around the site rather than just trying to find a direct way in. Now, certainly there's a lot of avenues where you can get away with that on the top floor. There's a lot of areas you can rush in from. Here you only really have Printer. You have the printer window and then maybe the stock hatch. Otherwise, and the janitor closet. Otherwise, you're going to have to do a lot of clearing. And I think that's the plan. You have Pano on the Ying. No glass being brought tells me that this might not be an instant rush. And rather just 9Z trying to work through the top floor with that blitz and with the Ram. We've also got the Twitch to deny Machina on the Goyos, but he is 10-4. So you're going to have to deny him in more ways than one right now. He's been having an impressive showing here. 9Z. Let's see what they talked about. Let's see if what they talked about worked as well.
You put Machina and Sexy Cake on the front lines of this room. Wondering if Scarps, who's been the pretty dedicated shield player for 9Z in this game, if he's gonna maybe try and flush them out with everybody else on the attack with that Ying that you mentioned. So far, just droning out that first floor. Seeing if, maybe they can get a quick little stab before they eventually rotate up on the top floor. Nobody inside just yet. We're in the first phase, the information phase, as it's called. Because now Scarps is in, Nitro is in as well. And you start to see some of that defensive utility go out before everybody backs off. Not a lot of resistance to this attacking team.
Picking and choosing their fights here, realizing that the blitz isn't really going to net them anything great. He's just in your face. There's really not a gunfight you can win there. That aforementioned blitz making his way down marble stairs. Already pretty close to the site, but he's got to be careful. Sexy Cake is playing on that bot marble. He's absolutely going to try and pressure this blitz if he goes downstairs. But Imperial just holding for now. Candela's going out, not really scaring them all that much. In terms of pressure towards the site, 9Z haven't really established any. As Bastion might have found a really good opening. Clears out all of Tellers. Realizes that it is completely clear. Archives is kind of the main choke point that 9Z want to collapse on, with Ram going over towards that square side and Scarps making his way in. He blinds the bandit, but is not checking for Mitrix, who gets one. Pano goes for the drop and falls. Bastion falls next, and Yex with his second. Nitro finally able to claim a kill here for 9Z, but it is in a 2 versus 4 scenario. Tuku and Nitro completely separated from one another, both needing to win individual gunfights, and that sounds exactly up Imperial's alley. But as I say that, Machina goes down on those marble stairs. Control established in Archives with 20 seconds left. Tuku sitting right outside, but it's Yex with a third. The man is on fire, and he's gonna hold it down for even longer. Finds Tuku with the fourth. And Imperial send us to match point. 9Z have been completely out of this game. 5 rounds in a row for Imperial.
The only time when 9Z found success was when Imperial was on the attack and they were struggling to put themselves in advantageous positions because of the clash. Imperial banned that clash, lost a round, and has won 5 straight. Being on the defense helps their style of play so much because you're allowed to extend, you're allowed to play a little bit more individually, and we see these very hero plays but it is within the boundaries of each other. I mean, I look exactly at this play right here. If Mitrix is not in position, you are probably going to lose Sexy Cake to the Blitz, who has the diffuser, who's then able to focus towards the rest of open area, and with the assistance of people beside him, it's going to be very hard for Imperial to fight back. But because Mitrix is there, is able to take care of that Blitz and drop the diffuser as well, it leaves 9Z scrambling. This is a hard puzzle for the attack to scratch, because it's just so many good players all playing in great synchronicity.
Yeah, it feels like 9Z have a set play every single time they load up their operators, but it's just constantly being denied. They wanted to get a kill off of that room with the Blitz, and they were unsuccessful because Imperial backed up. Imperial are aggressive, yes, and they're able to take these gunfights whenever they please, but they're not too aggressive. They're not taking disadvantageous gunfights. They're not playing this in a sloppy manner. It always feels like Imperial are holding an important position. 9Z just trudging through it at a snail's pace really isn't going to help them, especially because Imperial had such a strong setup inside the site itself. I feel like for 9Z, it's going to be about making progress towards that site itself, making them uncomfortable. At the same time, Imperial are setting up quite the hefty roam for 9Z to clear through.
They have the fuse, which is not a very typical pick. There's no Blackbeard, but we've seen that Blitz has kind of been the operator of choice for 9Z, not bringing it this time. Instead, putting Scarps on the Ying, which has also been a very common play of this attack. I wonder with the Capitao, they're going to try to potentially smoke things off. They've struggled to clear certain players out in certain positions. That is where the Capitao really succeeds. But Sexy Cake finds Tuku, and Mitrix has to be careful, or he could potentially end the round, and he might! With Machina by his side killing Nitro, that might be the map.
I mean, I figured that shield would be much bigger problem than it was, with Mitrix stuck on beepers, but he gets away with it. You still have Sexy Cake and E2. They're winning this map outside of the site, as 9Z don't even touch the ground floor, and it is a flawless 6 rounds out of Imperial. What an absolutely dominating performance there from them. You can't ask for a better and more smooth map to go in your way. Bank goes to Imperial.
Yeah, any hiccups early on are dealt with, especially by the ban system, which was a hard counter to that clash, which was the only real thing that 9Z found success with. But once Imperial was allowed to play their game, get comfortable, that is a rolling boulder down a hill that absolutely nobody could stop.
Yeah, I mean, that was incredible there from Imperial, who it felt like they had a slow start on that attack, but like you said, their playstyle just favors that defense so well. So we're going to have to see if 9Z can find a way to bounce back into this game, as we've got map number 2 loaded up very shortly, but we'll see you right before then.
Map 1 goes the way of Imperial, but it was a 9C's map pick though. We're talking about Bank. We're talking for a strong start for 9C as well. But a player you were praising during this game, Jazz, was Makina, who actually back in stage 2 was on Black Dragons, had a horrible time. Worst rated player on that roster, whereas he was supposed to be one of the fraggers, but he really stepped it up today.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a case of wrong team, wrong role. And I feel like in this case, Imperial has been his home. Makina's able to play this aggressive play style where he's the one taking engagements. He's the one leading the charge. And I feel like it's allowed him to really express himself. He went, I think he was 10-4 at one point. Like, that is an insane KD to have in this game where it feels like trades are kind of the whole thing right now.
Sometimes you just need a little bit of a refresher on how good you can be, because playing at the tier 1 level, at the highest level competition, can be very, very difficult. And sometimes you can look at a player and they're not doing very good and you're like, oh, this player just, doesn't have it in them, doesn't have that dog in them. But then you go down to T2 and suddenly they're running it. They're running the entire show. And I think that could be a player like Makina.
Amazing stuff from them, though. 6 rounds in a row, as we discussed earlier as well. Amazing stuff coming out for Imperial. And we get to look at the map veto as well, because we're going to go to their map pick afterwards. We'll be taking it to a Nighthaven Labs. I've had a look through some of the Challenger series so far. There's been some mixed results from both these teams, really. For example, 9C have won it against a team where Imperial lost that map 7-1-2. So maybe there's something to work on for them inside the series, and maybe we'll get to a decider at the very end. But the thing is, V, with these two teams, if you win, it sounds very easy. You make it into SAL. If you lose, you have another chance tomorrow. That is at least a positive thing they have.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure that's kind of in the back of their minds. But right now, you just want to win. You don't want to take it to chance. You don't want to go tomorrow, because INTZ might be watching. They are in the lower bracket, but because we're doing the upper bracket final, there's going to be a little bit of preparation that can be on a map like Bank or Nighthaven Labs, or even if we go to Consulate, and to get it done quickly, to win it out here, you're not going to risk that chance of being potentially counter-stratted in that lower bracket final.
Yeah, and for 9Z's case, they're playing up against a team that they've actually, well, if they lose, they will be playing up against a team that they lost to in the Swiss stage. INTZ beat them 2-1, so it's definitely risky here for 9Z, who now have to start on attack on Nighthaven Labs, which I think is going to play really well into the hands of Imperial, as we saw on their Bank defense. 9Z just could not crack that defense, and I think that Imperial having a defensive-sided Nighthaven and Consulate will carry them out throughout this series. We're going to need to see some major adaptations for 9Z if they don't want to find themselves in that rematch against INTZ.
Now, what do you think it is on these attacks here for 9Z that could help them win out these maps, or these rounds rather, on going into Nighthaven Labs, Jess?
I think it's kind of going to be a question about that shield play, right? Like, we saw the Clash being brought out a lot on Bank. It can also be a very big commonality on Nighthaven Labs. So that's for the defense. For the attack, I mean, they were struggling with the shields too. Like, I really feel like it's just all been about map control, and I just don't think that 9Z have really been able to get themselves in or near the site. They can surround the site and they can get close to it, but whenever they actually have to go towards that site, Imperial just fry them.
I think going from a map like Bank onto Labs is a little bit of a bigger map. You're going to get inside the building a lot quicker. So I think gaining map control is going to be a bit easier. Yes, this is not 9Z's map pick, but I think it might help them on their attacks, which is the huge elephant in the room, because they did not pick up a single one. So if there's something that needs to be alleviated very, very quickly, it's that.
Yeah, that's the whole point, right? I mean, they got about 5 minutes or 10 minutes in between these two maps, but having lost those 6 rounds in a row, V, surely it does something to your mental as well. But we've seen these players inside Tier 1. They know what it takes to really regain themselves inside of such a short break.
Yeah, it takes a good team and good players who have been here a long time to recover from getting beaten down 6 rounds in a row. No matter who you are, losing that much that quickly is going to do things to your mental. But hopefully 9Z, they get to start on the defense. Hopefully they'll bounce back.
Well, what can they do inside the series here to stay in this upper bracket to qualify to the SAL? We're going to the second map, Nighthaven Labs.
She's so good at that. My gosh. We gotta shout out the talents and the hosts and everything like that. Like that.
Yeah, we get the
killed it.
luxury of working with such amazing hosts, because here we get Anne over in NA, we get Jonah, Jay-Z Wills. Everybody's got the job.
Jay-Z
It's
Wills.
fun.
That's Jay's Wills to you.
Okay,
You know him.
sorry.
You
That's
can
what the audience probably would know him as and how to pronounce it.
You can call him by the Govey. I think you're close enough. It's
Oh,
call him
I
Jay's
am, but
Wills.
the audience might not know that his name is Jonah Zwillinger, which is why his name is Jay-Z Wills.
Willinger sounds like a sword, dude. Anyways, over to the maps. Got the Bandit and the Cade band from Imperial, actually, who are on attack. Curious. I thought that Imperial would be on the defense. So 9Z are on the defense of Nighthaven Labs. And there's the clash that we were mentioning. So for Imperial, it makes a lot of sense, right? Banning the Cade, banning the Bandit. You just want to get in and get ready. Like, you do not want this attack to just slow down at all. We saw that Imperial struggled a little bit on Bank with timing, if anything, as Pano's going to leave. We're going to have a remake. I wonder if that actually has to do with the sides. I don't know. Can't speculate, but we will have a remake.
The servers might be struggling too, potentially.
Could be, could be.
So
we don't know.
We're gonna go for a
I'm not on the
server
server.
remake, which sucks. I don't know. I've been just seeing a couple of people talk about the servers, so hopefully that's not gonna take super long, because it's a huge momentum stop, and I know that for both of these teams, they really just want to get into it. Don't, whether you are 9Z, don't delay the inevitable, or whether you are Imperial, get it over with and celebrate your, newfound SAL spot.
Still have to do that though, right? Like, and I think that despite what we saw on Bank and that like absurd defensive run from Imperial, there's still a challenge ahead of them in terms of attacking this Nighthaven. They had a slow start whenever it came to attacking on Bank. They got a 3-3 split, like not bad by any means, but it was certainly a side that felt like 9Z had a lot more control over. So whenever they're on this defense, whenever they have this clash in their pocket, I feel like this is going to have to be something that Imperial wade through. I mean, you saw them ban the Cade and the Bandit. They're not going to ban the Clash. They're going to have to run through it for the first 3 rounds, and if they want to ban it later, they absolutely can. But Nighthaven's kind of a map where you want to ban other operators, right? Like, there's so much more power in Mira, in Azami, and all these other pieces of utility that I personally feel like could slow down Imperial even more if they don't deal with it.
Yeah, and Clash is actually pretty common on Nighthaven Labs, especially on that top floor. So playing devil's advocate, it might be a little bit easier to deal with Clash because you've probably treaded this ground before. You've, played this map and this site before with those exact ops in mind.
Yeah. So taking a look at the bracket real quick, just to see like what we're actually getting ourselves into, because we talked about like whoever wins this game is going to SAL. Whoever wins this game is going to make it to Pro League. So for some of these teams, it's a return to Pro League. For some of these teams, it's going to be their first time, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I think whenever we were speaking about that Vasco roster that has kind of now become 9Z, one thing that we spoke about was their experience. They actually have Tier 1 experience. They were in the LATAM League. On some of these players were on Alpha teams. Some of these players were spread out amongst other teams. But yeah, Scarp, Pano, Nitro, all of these guys were on Vasco together in LATAM North. So they have a modicum amount of experience and even some major experience. So these are not 10 players that are relative unknowns. These are not 10 players that just kind of came out of nowhere. These are players that we know. So I think that at the end of the day, they have to put aside what's challenging them and that thought of throwing themselves into the lower bracket and just look at this game head on, because they can survive in Pro League. But can they survive this match? Can they survive this upper bracket final?
I will say, the South America League is no joke. Like, you look at some of these teams.
Best region in the world.
Yeah, literally. You recently had, I think, Team Liquid, the rumor behind that. I mean, FaZe Clan just won SI. Fluxo made it super far. I know Black Dragons Ask recently left, so they're kind of looking around, milling around. NIP also had, probably not an amazing show at SI, but still a team that's going to be very, very hard. So if you get into the SAL, you are among prestige talent. It's going to be difficult, but I mean, who knows? Like you said, these teams, some of these players have experience before. We could see some crazy runs from them.
Yeah, and SAL is a region that has always been dominant internationally, right? Like, no matter what team you send out, like, even if it's a team that hasn't made a major before under the Brazilian banner, they're still probably going to perform, more than likely. So I think that you're putting yourselves not only in a region that is incredibly difficult to be in and play in, but you're also setting yourself up for success further down the line, where if you make a major, you're actually going to be able to hold your own ground. And for both of these teams, that is certainly the case. Like I said, you have players that have won in international tournaments before.
Finally, after all that, we get to go on in command server. That second floor talked about how the clash is decently common here. Now you and I, Adam, come from NA. You know, we're very used to the kind of NA play style. And usually the NA way is you could bring a clash here to really stop with, you know, players rushing in from IT, electrical. Sometimes you might see a clash extend onto rafters as well. Whatever it is to slow down the attack. And one thing Imperial really struggled with early on, and why they lost some of the rounds, was that they were very slow. And Night Haven Labs is a little bit bigger. Yes, Night Haven Labs is a little bit bigger than Bank, and so depending on the speed in which Imperial go through this map, they could find themselves really struggling with the op lineup that 9Z have.
A lot of stall. A lot of utility that they're going to have to get through. Obviously, with no Bandit Cade, going to have to resort to other measures. I think the Tubarão is a perfect pick here for Tuku. Going to be able to delay that time even further. It's Florio bringing that Thermite that he's been on every single round. Going to go for those con walls, and Tuku's actually over inside a meeting. So, kind of an aggressive position to play. Not exactly prepared to stall out any openings right now. But is just going to look to shoot drones and get himself kind of in a good position to stall out time and scare Imperial off of this just a little bit.
Oh my god, that drone moving must have been torture for Tuku. Knowing he spent a little bit fighting it, and the drone is still there, still watching him, and it's taunting you. Oof. Evil. But we've seen some cheeky plays in the past. You know, you look at like 9Z, Machina constantly going down to Tuku on Cafe early on. It's where they found some of these entries. The drone work is good from Imperial. They root out a player that could be a really big thorn in their side early on. And they've got the Nomad, which isn't going to be used for the roam. It's mainly going to be used to isolate Scarps inside of the site. If you place it in electrical, Scarps is probably not going to go in electrical. You place it over by Pillar, Scarps is going to be over to go by Pillar. We talked about the adaptations around the Zofia all the way on Cafe, and early on Imperial have that in mind, and that's why they brought an operator just like Mictrix does.
Tracker on our style.
Machina below trying to find this clash and deny him any space. Try to force him into a corner like Electrical, where Imperial can deal with him with grenades, and there you go. Scarps is already forced back into Sexy Cake's waiting arms, but it's Yex to find the opening instead. The air jab will down the clash as well as another player covering him, but he manages to recover. Scarps is still here inside of Electrical, albeit losing tons of HP. Tuku eats another air jab, but no pick found just yet for Imperial. Besides that Azami inside of Rafters. Bastian doing anything he can to try and work this pick back with Scarps in Electrical. But with two nades still standing for Machina, this is all up in the air. Mictrix and Machina firing on all cylinders, but Scarps wins in a very important gunfight inside of Electrical. 2 versus 3 though, and Imperial find themselves in the site. Scarps is in so much trouble, and he gets finished off by Sexy Cake. All down to Tuku being spotted here, and Yex is ready for this swing. No way in hell Tuku gets away with this. He finds the Blackbeard on his way out, but Yex has the trade. Imperial lock out the first attack.
The pre-show I talked about how the map is much easier for gaining map control simply because of its size. And on a site like this, where there are a lot of ways that you can literally surround the site, whether it's Aqua, Connector, E-Box, Rafters, IT, I think Imperial did that wonderfully. They had a focus on Electrical, flushing out the clash, keeping all those defenders away from very visible areas that they could shut them down. And originally, the air jabs don't really find success. Yes, they throw the defenders around like a bounce castle, but there's nobody there to actually collect. But it's enough to make the defenders focus on that side of the map where other players are able to simply turn around, players like Yex and Florio, who gain pivotal map control and make it so that 9Z have to keep their eyes on a swivel and weaken their overall defense in really critical parts like Pillar and E-Box.
And Z will immediately forego this top floor. In a way, I guess. You're kind of still there. A little bit of familiarity with the site hold. You're going to be holding above. You're going to be holding that pillar area regardless. But that is not the site. We've seen 9Z be pretty successful on off-sites. And wow! That is some rough timing from Machina. Tuku immediately just fries him off of that 90 window. That is such an important cut and such an important player to lose in this game. Machina has been incredible for this team on Bank. He is no longer in this round. 9Z have been very successful when they find that opening engagement, and that's the case here, as Imperial are now going to have to work with a man down.
One thing Tuku has constantly shown is you can take nothing for granted early on. You play lazily, you're going to get punished, and that's exactly what happens. And so now Imperial, they've worked from a man behind before. I mean, even when they were constantly victims of the entry over in round 3 and round 5 on Cafe, they still won the map. And actually, the only entry death was the only death in the entire round for them. But how do they adapt? There's no clash that they're going to have to deal with, so they don't need to bring any massive flashes, but you have the ramp. You're going to be able to shred that floor and really do wonderful work even without the sledge, and that's where the focus is for Imperial.
Still stalling out here is 9Z. They've got the Goyo canister fired off in electrical. That pillar wall open. 9Z are going to have to play a little carefully here. You still also have a player inside of Raptors, so... Actually, that's not inside of Raptors. Excuse me. Nitro nearby, though. And still the case that 9Z are gonna have to try and clear this out. Nitro gets spotted and tagged down pretty heavily. 1 HP to his name, but he has Akiba back up. Oh wait, no he doesn't actually. He's out. Now he's stuck, completely there to die. If he could get his trade on his way out, that's probably best case scenario, but that nade is almost certainly going to guarantee that that doesn't happen, as Nitro nearly gets away, but it is Sexy Cake to finally find him. The trade is there, and with Scarps dying upstairs, maybe should have just given it, but a double C4 from below. Pano lights it up, both Sexy Cake and Florio falling, and now the man advantage right back into the hands of 9Z. 20 seconds left. Mitrix and Yex now scrambling to try and find this plant. They're gonna hop in through that storage window and start to get it off, but is there more denial to come? Pano with his 3rd kill finds Mitrix, and Bastion finishes the job, and 9Z will equalize.
What a turnaround. Great utility for play from Pano. And initially, with Imperial, they go slow, like they normally have done on the attack. But eventually, they meet the ground, and it takes a little bit of time, but they make headway. And it seems like they're going to be able to roll that into the site with top floor control, with that Blackbeard. But that C4 just throws a massive wrench into the mix. Now, you don't have the bodies and the time, because that's really what you bet on when you have a very slow attack, is that you're going to have the needed utility and the needed bodies alive because you've been so precise with your roam clear. But when you're working with a hand behind your back, you're not going to have a lot of success. So for 9Z, this is the first round that they have won in, I gotta make sure, 6 rounds. All the way over on Cafe. That's how long of a streak Imperial have been on. And for 9Z, you want to make sure that you get every single round that you can, because we have been singing the praises of Imperial's defense, and I know that it's sure looming in the back of their minds.
1-1. Now the score. Feels like this game is anyone's now, but you have to remember Imperial's strengths on their defense. That'll certainly come to light on the defensive side once they get to it. Still showing a lot of competence on this attack, trying to fight 9Z on this roam clear, and I feel like they've been having a lot more success than on Bank. But sometimes 9Gs just have a play in their back pocket, or even a C4. You've got to cover all your bases here, and for Imperial, that means not losing players extremely early. Obviously, Machina losing that engagement was kind of luck, we'll say, a little bit of luck, just right place, right time for Tuku, but that's still been the story for Imperial, is they try to play this ultra-aggressive playstyle on attack. They try to fight this roam clear, but more often than not, they're the ones actually losing the opening engagement and having to play for that trade, which I think they're okay at doing. I don't think that they can't not get that trade, but you really just want to get off on the right foot the moment the round starts. Yoke call coming out, and it seems like Imperial may not go for this roam clear instead. Yex may just be a decoy with this ram above, as both Sexy Kick and Machina are outside the site, and there's the opening engagement going in the favor of Imperial. Now Machina swings in, finds the player inside a pillar, and has Tuku in his line of sight. In comes that player in Exo, but he is shut down. So is Sexy Cake, though. The planter taken off the border. Excuse me, Florio, but Sexy Cake right behind. Slams down Tuco, and Pano falls next. Now Scarps is above. He has to deny the case. Looks immediately towards default. Wow, what a shot from Sexy Cake. Gets the Denari off of the vert. And Imperial, they find the site completely free to take, and they do just that.
Going for a direct like that on a site that is so vertical heavy is such a risk, but if you can get in and get in incredibly powerful positions, the entire world is your oyster. Especially because I look at the extension, I don't know what the exact room is called, but it's between the two tiles itself. It's the P room. I think I saw it on Twitter. We call it the Night Haven P room. Where if you're able to gain control of that, look, it's funny, but I can't remember the exact call out. If you gain control of that, suddenly any, oversight that you can see inside of the actual sites themselves is going to be in the attacker's position. The player tucking in the corner of default can have a great time when it comes to actually fighting against Exo. I think for Imperial, gaining really pivotal map control was the key to success, and they did exactly that. It doesn't help to, win your gunfights up against the vertical, a fight that you are statistically disadvantaged at.
Yeah, that was a nuts shot from Sexy Cake. In general, just a great round out of him, taking so much space in that site. NZ will opt to go back upstairs. The mirror has been banned, the Clash has not, and yet 9Z not going to bring it. Not much of a requirement for this site, but this is certainly one of the sites where she's really strong. Instead, substituting it for a little bit more pressure in and around the site. You've got Nitro on the pulse to potentially play below and thwart any plans from Imperial. It seems more like 9Z are okay with losing map control towards the site when they have two C4s to play with to potentially deny. For now, it's all about stalling that out. It's all about getting Imperial to take as long as possible to get in towards that site. T-Wall gets opened up here by Florio. Pretty stock standard stuff. For 9Z, it's about not losing that Azami like they did on the first time around so early on, so that Imperial don't have that Raptors control for free.
We've seen the Brava from Yex. The only real gadgetry you're going to be able to hack is going to be those F-nuts, which can be very, very crucial. Got a BP and probably any defaults. That combined with the Twitch is really interesting to me, because it doesn't seem like it might primarily just be for gadgetry, but you also have the information that we've seen Imperial can be very, very good on. I mean, you look at last round, you're going to need information before you actually commit to the site. But as Imperial are doing that, how are they going to take care of the Nitro? The Pulse is on the board, and overall, Right now, the focus doesn't seem to be too much on rooting him out. Instead, a primarily horizontal take.
Come back to bite them. All really depends on if Nitro can land that C4. He's safe and sound here, and he's going to provide tons of intel for 9Z as to where this attack is coming from, but Machina's going to drone him out. It's going to cause a little bit of anxiety in the Pulse, who might not be able to play on his scanner all that much. And sometimes that's all you really need to deny a Pulse, is kind of just phantom pressure him out. Make sure he doesn't have his scanner out all the time. But Yin Candela's coming through, and that Scarps inside of Raptors forced to back away. A beautiful shot from Tuku opens up the round for 9Z, but the swing from Yex and Machina just makes it all the better. But still, Yex and Mitrix go down 2 versus 3. Machina lighting it up. A double kill from him. Just such an impressive player right now. Pano round the corner, gets taken down. A triple for Machina. Now in the 1 versus 1 with Nitro approaching. Does he know about him? He now does. Has the Kiba to play behind, and it's Machina with 4. An incredible play as he gifts Imperial another attack.
That was such a terrifying position, not knowing the Pulse was walking up the stairs. I thought that was it. We've seen Nitro come back, even though it hasn't looked amazing. He would walk up the stairs and find the kill, but the whiff happens, and that gives Machina just enough time to realize where that action is coming from, see the Pulse, and use the Kiba barrier up against the defense. That's the worst feeling in the world. And 9Z are going to use their timeout in the exact same position, down to things looking dire. And the best that they can do is a 3-3 split. And it's going to require either going back to the basement, which they've lost, or retreading old ground on the second floor. Nothing feels great for this team, and you've already lost your first map. And it seems like they're going to commit towards storage. This is one of the sites that they did win previously thanks to a really critical C4 from Pano.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Is quite the difference between the Bank and the Nighthaven Labs game for Imperial, where we were singing the praises of 9Z on their defenses. Imperial are now playing like a Pro League team already, as if they weren't before. Like we mentioned on the desk, like Ann mentioned, Machina coming from Black Dragons, not exactly the player that he wanted to be on his stint in the SAL, now has another chance at life with a different team where he is floating. 7-2. This man, I thought 10-4 was impressive. He looks like he's about to go for something even crazier. Just insane performance out of him. And Imperial, insane attacks. Because of that, following up on Machina's plays, playing together on those trades. You saw Yex and Machina get aggressive towards that Raptor side with the Candela. It was just a set piece that was played so well. And if you can't stop Imperial on their attacks where 9Z were a lot more proficient, what is that defense gonna ring? 3-1 is the score now. Is any change up for 9Z going to help them in this case?
I don't know. We got the Solus. Has to change. Got a little bit of denial with that Azami, Malusi, Smoke. Nobody has really stood against this very formidable team except Tuku. Got a very critical kill up against Machina in the one round that 9Z have won. But since then, he's had to play a little bit more contained. It's such a risk for him to make those, you know, very explosive plays while he'll swing a window within the first 30 seconds. And maybe he gets an entry, but a death that early might doom 9Z, especially when they're in this position where they're just dangling on a tightrope. And now, as Nitro seems to be the target for this team, DMR firing away, but instead Machina is firing blind through the wall, only working off of the phone and the general location, and that allows Nitro to get a job done.
Or doesn't land its mark onto Florio, but it might have gotten rid of his exothermic charge, which might be worse, honestly. Had he got that off, at the very least, it could have been a take in. And as Tuku finds Florio, 9Z are holding this firm. You still have Sexy Cake positioned outside the site, with Mitrix not far behind, and Yex making his way downstairs as well. Now shifting away from this top floor, realizing that there's just so much control being established here by 9Z. No. Bastian on that Solus has spotted the blitz down below. Sexy Cake thinks he's going for something that he is unaware of, but they know. They are well aware of this blitz coming up cargo. Regardless, Nitro still falls on the defensive side. So Imperial starting to close this gap just a little bit, but it's about taking map control here. Mitrix needs to win this one. Are you kidding me? Flicks through Scarps in with smoke and gets the kill. We're now equal. Sexy Cake is outside of the site, but there is so much vert. He's gonna hit it. He's gonna run right towards Wave Stairs. This is risky, but it might just work to force 9Z away. But Tuku immediately slams him down, and Bastian has the ping on the case, gets the kill, and Tuku follows it up with a third. 9Z will recover and set this at a 2-3 game.
I look back to that initial kill onto Makita from Nitro. And it's a push that seems a little haphazard. I mean, you have the idea with the yellow ping, you have the phone call, but there are just so many better ways that you're going to be able to win that fight, and that just kind of spirals forward. Imperial have been a very good team at working with an arm behind their back with an entry death, especially when Mitrix is going to hit shots like that. But I think 9Z having that top floor control is simply the be-all, end-all. We even saw it all the way on Cafe with how strong vertical can be on sites like Open Area, and the kind of Hail Mary shot of Sexy Cake running up Aqua Stairs. Maybe he gets something and the round is saved, but the statistically likelier option is that Sexy Cake dies because they know he's coming. The Solus is going to be able to use that scanner to find out exactly where that diffuser is, and 9Z simply rest on their utility. That has been their strength the entire series. They haven't been able to really outgun Imperial, so they rely on the Clash. They rely on the Solus, and that's where the wins come from.
A lot of intel to work with there, and a lot of utility. And again, 9Z have been pretty strong at playing around their setup and playing around their utility to their advantage. Now you have the Clash being brought back by Scarps, which might make this shield a lot more challenging than it already was to play. Sexy Cake on that blitz. Spots out the smoke top wave. Wondering if that is the option here for Sexy Cake, is to just fly in through Wave Stairs, but it doesn't seem like it. Imperial took this round relatively slowly last time until they went for that execute towards Rafters and IT. I feel like this won't be any different. You have a lot more util to work with. You have the Candelas. You have nades now on Gridlock. You have Gridlock Frank Watch. It tells me that they want to execute quickly, but they also want to get a lot more map control.
I wonder if it's also potentially an anti-Tuku device. And you have the track stingers. Blind goes out, and Sexy Cake gets that kill. Does get shot residually from some players inside of the site, but the job is done. The Clash rotating is only going to be a band-aid fix to patch up the hole left by Pano's death, combined with the utility loss of the smoke. It's a great little 1-2 punch of Imperial, who back off, and now they're just going to simply rotate to another site and try to apply a quick little stab, potentially over by Rafters with those Roteros.
And crucially, Scarps is actually forced away from his original position over towards E-Box. He's now playing towards this Raptors and Wave side, expecting that this is where the Imperial push is going to come from. But it's a misnomer. Wave has been completely cleared out and track stingered by the Gridlock, and that's it. Now Sexy Cake makes his way over towards that con side with the Blitz. And if he has the timing on this, he might be able to get there before clashes, but Scarps, he rotates over. He sees what's happening. They're just playing Ring Around the Rosie with him, though, as Mitrix now takes over towards that Wave side. Ying shotgun in hand. He has two blind, and he gets both. Tuku and Nitro dying inside a triple mainly. But there it is. Cassian gets one on his way out, but the Clash distracted with this blitz. Sexy Cake goes hunting, and so does the Ying. Imperial, a 4-2 attacking half on Nighthaven Labs spells disaster for 9Z's Pro League hopes.
You need Warden in a very specific position because you need him to counter the Ying. And if he's not there and the Candelas are played perfectly, which they were, you are going to have two players be sitting ducks. I admire Scarps being like, maybe if I prone, he won't see me. He's a predator. He works on movement. That's not how this works.
Behind the big tree.
Yeah, no, you are big, bulky, and your shield is a dead giveaway. And Imperial, they get that split just like you said, and it is a daunting task for 9Z to overcome this deficit on their attacking half. On Cafe, it was 3-3. That was the best possible position. And 9Z still did not get anything. 0 round wins.
Yeah, that was rough. It was 6 rounds in a row for Imperial on the defense. And I keep reminding you of that just to kind of show how much of a difficult game this has been for 9Z on attack. Imperial also found some difficulties on their attack, to be fair. We can't exactly call them faultless on Bank, but here on Labs, it is quite the opposite. They have been playing 9Z like a fiddle. So much pressure, and honestly using their Clash against them in that last round. Having him rotate away, having him be kind of the main blocking point for Imperial to go, no, we're not going to push through there. We're going to push through here instead. And faking wave and double backing. Just so smart. Just so well played. And it felt like a lot more control from Imperial than they had on Bank. Now, switching over towards that defense, we saw what happened on that last map. We know that Imperial are going to continue to run around and try to find picks on this defense early on and try to just be the aggressor. Will 9Z have a response for this after already dealing with it on map 1?
I'm sure Machina on the Azami is kind of licking his lips, knowing that 9Z are going to have to face him. He is more than ready with the Sexy Cake assistant being a bit aggressive. Why not? They've shown that Imperial are going to win these fights most of the time, unless, you know, you put yourself in a very silly situation, harkening back to that kitchen vending clear. Machina has those Kiva barriers. It's going to be the job of Scarps to really deal with them. You get this wall open, you're going to be able to, you know, start chipping away at these Kiva barriers with your guns. But at Sexy Cake, he's got a pulse scanner, and he is just going to constantly give the position of everybody just hugging this wall.
Trying my hardest not to fanboy out, realizing Sexy. The Sexy Cake, the guy that won with Liquid. I was watching that Pro League final live. That was awesome. He's playing Pulse too, which I feel like is also an operator that I see him on a lot. Like he really just hasn't changed, man. And if you look at him, it doesn't even look like he's aged. And it really doesn't feel like he's aged. He's been playing lights out this game. Obviously not having the world-eating performance of Machina this game, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Mitrix has also been having a great Nighthaven Labs. Apatow Bolt's going to force Machina back, though, but he's going to keep fighting this. Sensing a little bit of danger over towards Raptor's side. This is already a pretty quick take here from 9Z. They're making a lot of space here, but can't go too fast. You have a lot of utility to play up against. You have shotguns in your face as well. Drone this out. Figure out what's going on first before you get too brazen.
Heartbeat sensor deployed.
It's good air jab. That's going to stop a little bit of an extension from Machina, but just look at the information that Sexy Cake is giving off. Exactly where the Nomad is, if there's going to be pressure. I don't think he saw the drone, potentially. They do know he's there, so everybody knows they're being watched by each other, but who's going to make the first move? It has to be 9Z with that ticking clock. 30 seconds left.
I have a lot of information where Imperial are. So do Imperial. That pulse scanner is spotting out Bastian as we speak, and he has a shotgun ready to play for that. Execute comes on through. Nitro's gonna sprint in through Wave, trying to take this gunfight against Yex, wins a very important double kill, and Mitrix burns to death. Huge play here from 9Z. Florio gets Scarps on his way, but that's about all he can get just for now. Double kill, maybe a triple. Florio, 1 versus 2, pistol in hand, has time, but doesn't have HP. And with Bastian collapsing in on him, Florio, it was a good attempt, but 9Z will walk away with that first attack.
Their first attack in the entire series, mind you. And they do it off of a little bit of attacker utility. I think most of it is done by Yex, who's able to push in on the top of upstairs through the smoke, and the players there just aren't ready. Because that is the thing about a smoke, is it is two-way. The defenders aren't going to know you're pushing through it. And, you know, for Yex, you may not know exactly what's waiting on the other side, but if you can get the jump on the defenders with that utility, honestly, you've got a much greater chance at winning it out. It is a very slow round. The tension just boils up throughout the entire thing. And usually, in rounds like those, whoever is able to get the best opening pick and the best amount of critical map control. And I think getting Aqua Stairs, you open things right up, and it allows 9Z to put themselves within striking distance. This is the first time I think we've seen Imperial a little bit critical health. You know, they're weakened than they were previously since all the way at the beginning rounds of map 1.
Critical timing for both of these teams. For 9Z, if it's a map loss, you're down to the lower bracket. You're out of your first chance to make Pro League. For Imperial, they don't want to go to map 3. They feel the pressure of Consulate looming. Can't start to slip up just now, just when you have that spot in your grasp. Ano already taking a bit of damage on that blitz, which is certainly not what you want for a shield. Not sure how that happened, but he seems relatively safe. As 9Z seem relatively safe in general to try and go for this upstairs take. Making their way through, spotting out the utility on the board, which there is plenty. Have Imperial playing this pretty aggressively. Machina going to try and stall out as much information and time before he decides to drop into games and rotate potentially back to the site. But yeah, tons of pressure being applied here by Imperial. You have the Blitz and the Lion to kind of help deal with that. And with Nitro on that Ram, you're certainly going to have the verticality to work with as well. C4 there from Mitrix. I think that was the one from below. Claims the Ram. That is your only vert on this site, in this map. That is rough. That is going to hurt so badly for 9Z, who now have to find a way to go in directly against the grain, against these Goyo canisters, against a Warden. That is rough. That is a really rough operator to lose this early.
You're not going to be able to pressure back these defenders who really want to push up and be as aggressive as they can. And you can see kind of the freedom in which they're able to walk around this site. 9Z feels like they're a little bit struggling on where they want to go next. You're seeing, you know, spotting these black eyes, some quick rotates from Scarps, maybe under this piece of verticality. But as the clock is ticking down, 9Z need to find an area of entry. The most likely one is going to be this potential Animus hatch drop. You're going to be afforded a small net of safety, but almost everywhere else, there's going to be defenders right around the corner, because with the dwindling time, Imperial have the man advantage, they have the map control, they can just rest on their laurels here.
Then literally none of that that pick from Nitro didn't even come from a roam at all. So Imperial can just back up and play safely. And this is where they're at their best, when they're just holding power spots in sight. 9Z have been so hard pressed to actually get out of their way. But Yex is getting pretty low here. That's a massive win from Mitrix on his way out, clearing out the blitz. Tuku's on a rush here. Double kill for Tuku, but the case is nowhere near the site. Imperial managed to stall out so much. That roam was just way too effective, forcing 9Z's hands, and they couldn't even pressure the site because of the ram death. Imperial could not have had a better round if they tried.
When you're at this stage in the round where it is just not a lot of hope left, so you just kind of enter the site, you have to do it with enough time remaining in which you can either find a small thing of map in which to put the diffuser down, or you can find everybody on the site, and neither of those happened. The drop was, what, 10 seconds left? There were 5 bodies on the board, and you're able to get 1 or 2, some pretty good shots, but overall, you're just not affording yourself the best chance at actually winning that round. And even granted, it is a incredibly unwinnable round without the ram, with how impatient Imperial played it, but you really just want to throw that Hail Mary with the best chance possible. And so now Imperial, taking a page out of 9Z's book, they're bringing their own clash, and it's not on Sexy Cake, the dedicated shield player that we've seen on the attack. It's going to be Mictrix, one of the main fraggers, picking her up.
Imperial debuting the clash now in this series. Haven't seen him just yet. Plenty of it from 9Z's side. That's going to be a direct counter to the blitz that 9Z have been bringing. Scarp's on that blitz. The con wall gets open. The clash is positioned pretty aggressively here, and he's going to be forced off by these air jabs. And Scarps! He tries to take advantage, but the C4, I think, was from below. Just blows him sky high, and there's the advantage gained for Imperial. And V, if any of these rounds have been a story, what's going to happen now? Imperial are going to play this passively. They're going to waste time still. They're going to play upstairs to try and waste time and play around this site just a tiny bit, but they are not looking to fight. They are looking to just shoot drones, back up into sight, reinforce yourself off, whatever the case may be. Anything to just burn that clock down.
I really like the sentry pick from Sexy Cake, and we actually saw why. The 2 impacts that he brings, you cut off 2 boogie drones, and now you have a C4 in your pocket as well. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, C4s have been kinda good for Imperial. They've been able to get these picks without actually engaging in the fights at all. Plus, if you get this entry pick, you can just sit back as Sexy Cake and play plant denial. Things are getting a little bit hairy though. Mitrix goes down and Florio has to be incredibly careful because he's getting pinched from both sides. And if 9Z are actually able to get this kill, but the glass shield is so big, you die. But taking down Nitro, that means those C4s are just getting more and more powerful.
Very unlikely that Florio was getting out of that position, so just getting anybody on your way out is a massive, massive advantage. But with 35 seconds left, 9Z at the very least have a direct avenue into the bomb site, but there are still 2 C4s left. Like you said, Sexy Cake bringing that sentry has plenty of util to work with. Dealt with the boogie drones, now he has a C4 to deny plant. There's so much of a contingency plan here for Imperial. 9Z may just have to go for picks, and that might be Yex. Sitting in kitchen. He's isolated. If he gets killed through that window, it could be huge, and Sexy Cake goes down, so that C4 won't work out, but Bastian hops through and gets slapped down by Yex. C4 is still up for him as well, and Machina claims Pano. Tuku's got to go huge here, but he absolutely cannot. Machina and Yex will collapse, and Imperial are looking mightier than ever on this defense.
And now they are 1 round away from getting to Pro League. Some of these players have been there. That big name, Sexy Cake, jumps out at you. He is 1 round away from taking this team back to the SAL and joining some titans of the entire esport, and they just need to win 1 more round. They're going to go through an initial ban. And what are 9Z going to bring? Their potential final ban, it is going to be Clash. It's going to make that second floor attack a little bit easier because you don't have to have some util dedicated just for clearing out where that Clash will be. But I do want to say, 9Z do have a second chance. If they lose this map, they go down to that lower bracket final and will face INTZ for the final spot in the SAL. Things look dire, but it's not over for this team.
Looking for revenge if you're Imperial. Trying to head into the SAL. As your last go about it wasn't that successful during the ENX days. Now ENX has found new players. This is all about revenge for Imperial, really. Leaving or getting dropped or whatever from their previous org after going 9th in the SAL. Coming back and dominating SAL quals, being the highest rated team coming into the closed qualifier. Well, Challenger Series is what it's actually called. The closed qualifier. And then going 2-0 and 2-0 in your upper bracket after starting 3-2. Certainly statements being made here by Imperial, who want to return and have another shot at this with a arguably stronger team, with some key pieces that are going to absolutely fry once they make the league. I mean, Machina, 10-4. Look at him. This is literally the exact scoreline he had on Bank. For 9Z, this comeback is going to be difficult. But no Clash means they're not going to have to deal with the shield. And so far, the map control has been going swimmingly here for them. Opening up that con wall, making their way over towards meeting side. And now just trying to find anything that they can do with that Brava and with that Flores to sort of try and ease the pain here as they walk towards that site.
I think the drone spotted Sexy Cake, who is on the pulse, was on the pulse last time. It was a really big part as to why Imperial were kind of able to play with a lot of ebb and flow, because there was constant information on over. Mitrix has to be very careful. He's able to survive, and the C4 does not land, but Tuku is down.
Wow.
That is the guy for 9Z, and it's Mitrix to hit double digits of his own. A trade is onto Florio in the corner, caught out. But with Tuku, that's drones, that's util, that is just so much power off the board, and somebody else is going to have to take up the mantle for this attack.
Mitrix in a bit of a tough spot, trying to play on this Condor and pressure the player on the breach. But he is not alone, and that's the thing about Imperial, is they are playing this together. They are refusing to let players die off solo, and that has been their biggest strength so far in Nighthaven Labs. C4 ripped there from Sexy Kick, doesn't land its mark, and Mitrix finally goes down. But he's wasted a hell of a lot of time. Machina gets the trade too. Scarps is down. 3 versus 3. Pano and Nitro knocking on the door of sight. They have the breach open, but they haven't cleared out Sexy Cake from this E-box corner. They haven't cleared out Yex in Pillar. There's so little time to work with here, 9Z. You've got to get going. Machina still in Raptors, being held by Bastian. And in comes Nitro, but Machina's gonna make work of him! A triple from Machina! Is it enough to send them to the SAL? It's gonna be a 4th for Machina! He opens us up with a triple, and he closes us out with a 4K. Machina sends Imperial to the league. Congratulations, you have just made it back to SAL.
Machina says, hey, I didn't do great. I'm gonna show everybody here that I belong in the upper echelon of Siege. Even if I may have struggled in the past, I am going to take care of everybody. Ending it on a 3K is just beautiful for him. He had an amazing game. Sexy Cake had an amazing game. Mithrix had an amazing game. Imperial itself had an amazing game, and it's not hard to see why they qualify for the SAL. They do not have to risk going for the lower bracket final. And we will see them among the top dogs. The past 2 SI winner of FaZe will have to play Imperial.
Yeah, I would love to see what this team can do now that they have this much firepower. And like we said, I mean, Ann was talking about it, right? Machina didn't have the best stint in his first go-around in the SAL, but now he has another chance at redemption. He's been on plenty of teams in the SAL, so it comes as no surprise that he's able to qual back, but now it's about proving yourself. And I feel like this team just has so much strengths going into that league. I can see why this region is the best. I mean, they have so much good teams coming in through the system. But yeah, we're going to be able to talk to one of those players shortly there, as well as bringing Ann back into the fray. But for now, we will toss to a quick break just before that interview. Get that.
Welcome back here to the SAL. We see Imperial make it all the way back into the SAL. Congratulations to them. Amazing stuff for them. A 2-0 victory. Just things you love to see inside this upper bracket. And that means we should be able to speak to them very soon, as well as we have Sexcake on the line for a quick chat after this game here. Congratulations, Sexcake, on the victory and making it back into Tier 1. That must be a good feeling. One second, because we don't hear you right now. Could you try and speak? Oh, we hear you now. Okay, perfect. All right. Sorry, continue.
Oh yeah, it's a good feeling, especially when we lost everything on ENX, and now we're back with the Imperial team. But it was right on the stars. I know the way to win the Challenger, so now we just need to maintain on the top 8 teams and play well, because it was a mix of sentiments, mix of feelings, because people played for the first time in the SAL. The team was very young, little experience with the guys, and we feel it. We felt it, we were pressured to win some matches, and this was very bad for us.
So do you think, getting rid of a couple players and bringing in Machina and Yax, do you think those are going to alleviate those issues?
Yeah. They have a lot of experience in Tier 1 because they already played in MIBR years ago. So they're a good complement. They were the best fit for every position that we needed. And yeah.
I mean, you said it, I was going to say it, but you did it for me. You said the ENX run didn't go as well as you had planned, right? That's not the result that you guys wanted. And obviously you showed out tonight that you are a much better looking team than that. I'm just being nice. But what do you think is going to be the big difference maker here for SAL? Because I feel like you guys are going to be a lot more competitive this time around. What do you think is really going to push you over the edge this time?
Man, I think we just need to don't make the same mistakes that we did in ENX, because it's a high jump. The difference of skill, it's absurd. Not in gunfights or anything like that, but tactic level, decision making in a blink of seconds. So we just need to focus on those things and be better to play equals against Tier 1 teams.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like a good thing to look forward to. Now, one more question before we let you go. There's one more team that gets put up to the SAL. That's either going to be 9Z or INTZ. Who do you think makes it?
I think it's going to be a tough game, because they won, one team won, and then the other team won, and they in this fight, and they trash a lot in the chat. They hate. It's a little war.
There's beef.
Yeah. I have 2 friends on INTZ, so I'll be cheering for them. Arthur and Angels that were with us in the NX. Not Arthur, only Angels. But yeah, I hope they won, but it's going to be difficult.
All right, well, thank you so much. We'll keep an eye out for that and for the beef in the chat tomorrow as well. Once again, congratulations, Sexcake, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Always great to hear from the players after a game, and specifically this one, because we talked about what will happen next stage, right? That decision making. But I think what we're seeing here, V, especially on Nighthaven Labs, was on the second half, a bit of testing the water sometimes, and then all of a sudden, Imperial were just on the site.
Yeah, you kind of see it right in front of you. I wanted to talk about the Clash, because the Clash was a really big thing over back on that first map on Bank, and yet when it was brought here, it felt like Imperial were really able to maneuver around it as well, use their utility to shut down Scarps so that that massive impact just simply was not felt. And I think it was part of the main difference, combined with Imperial's ability to play trades, be around each other physically, so that when you got in these very chaotic gunfights, you would almost always find yourself on top. I mean, that is a great example. Sexcake does have Machina's back. They always have the ability to immediately look to the left, right, behind them, and they'll find a teammate waiting for them.
And then looking afterwards on their defensive half as well. I mean, this 4K from Makina, I think at that point we knew, okay, if Makina's going to have a similar performance here as on the first map, it's likely going to go in the favor of Imperial. But hearing afterwards from Sexcake as well, and kind of like talking about what they're looking to do in the future, Jazz, was that kind of sufficient for you? Do you believe the story they're putting up going into SAL?
I think I do now. Before the game, it felt like Imperial were certainly a team that... What Sexy Cake said, like, ENX was not worse just because of the gun skill, right? Like, the gun skill was all there. But it felt like Imperial had a bit of an over-reliance on it earlier in the bracket. Now it felt like they were at their top form. It felt like they were playing together. They were holding crosses super well. Honestly, just had the better teamwork compared to 9Z, and it just felt like that was the difference maker here for Imperial in the end. That's the reason why I truly believe Imperial is going to succeed a lot better than they did as that ENX core. They just looked like a homogeny, like an actual core team rather than just 5 players individually doing their own thing.
Yes, and for specific players as well on this roster, really having that rise up with different players around them. It's something you just love to see for these individual players back inside the tier 1. And we're kicking off quite literally very soon as well, so we'll have to really get going inside of the SAL. But we can take one more look at our updated brackets and see where we find ourselves in the competition, because just one more game is left for us tomorrow. That lower final that you're looking at in the bottom right of your screen, either 9Z or INTZ will make it to the SAL as well. We already talked about it a little bit with Sexcake. There is maybe some drama, some beef, some chit-chatting in the chat there as well, but there's some history between these two teams as well, V. I mean, they've gone up against each other a few times so far inside these brackets.
Yeah, it was interesting listening to Sexy Cake, because I don't think he actually chose a team. He was talking about how they had their beef and he had friends on both sides. I really wish I could have known, because I think that one's going to be so interesting. The matchup inside of the Swiss, it went to 3, and then now in the semifinals, it went to 3, but both fell 9Z's way. And you have to think, like, surely both of them went this specific way. Maybe again it'll go 9Z sides, but whenever you have games go to 3 maps, there's always something up in the air. And maybe, like I said earlier in the series, there's going to be a little bit more prep work on 9Z. Maybe INTZ will be able to read into that.
Yeah, and I think Sexy Cake brought up like a really important point, which is that 9Z and INTZ have played each other before. Like, not only is there beef, but there's actually like history. Like, there's actually been games played between these two teams before. So a lot of the prep work is going to come in. Where did 9Z slip up? How did they lose to Imperial in the way that they did? Because this was not a great showing from 9Z. There's a lot of weaknesses that you can pick apart from this team if you are INTZ. There's a lot of prep work that can be done, and a lot has changed as this bracket has formed. So you can't expect them to do the exact same thing that they did last time.
It concludes today for us here for the SAL. We already had EML earlier today as well, where we saw Jiggy Oletti qualify to the EML as well. There's plenty of time for us to practice on that name at least and put the full Italian passion to that, where it deserves the Italian passion, with a full-on, again, Italian team making it back inside Tier 1. Whilst we're finishing up here, the NAL Challenger Series will be on tonight as well. A great day for Siege enjoyers, because you get to sit here and watch so much Siege. But Jazz, that's a region that's more of you two's expertise, I guess we would say, right? Having done more of these NAL stuff. Any kind of predictions, expectations maybe for the game tonight?
Drive back to the lead! I don't know. It actually going to be a really interesting game. Because you have a team that is extremely experienced in the upper finals, versus a team that is quite literally the exact opposite. A team that has never played in T2, or at least 3/5 of them. So I have no predictions. I want to see In Control do it just for the story, man. But at the same time, I think it's anyone's game, and I think if we are being realistic, you could probably expect to see LATAM's Last Hope, known as Team Cruelty, make their return to the league, and Packer as well make his return.
That is exciting stuff to look forward to. We hope we do eventually get to that, right? It will be at 10 p.m. our time here, CET, back on this channel here with that game. I mean, that's a time zone that obviously is going to be different for you two watching it over on the other side of the pond. But it concludes our day here for the SAL. I'd like to thank you two so much for talking us through these teams inside the game and on the desk here with me as well. We're going to be back tomorrow for the lower bracket final of the SAL. Stick around for some NAL later here today. Thank you so much for watching.